Hello, my name is Matthew and I'm a composer. So this is a piece called For Samuel Beckett in 2 movements lasting between 17 and 27 hours. And it's basically a translation of the text into music. So I've been composing for nearly 30 years. And for about 27 years, I have been turning language into music. I remember when I first could understand music, I noticed in words that there were letters that you could play on the piano. Obviously starting with the word face. I mean, that's how you learn the treble clef, F-A-C-E. And so I was immediately taken with this idea that there's writers, without knowing it, are composers. And they're these compositions, great, huge compositions with massive possibility hidden within text. And there's a billion different ways you can get it from that text into music. But it's always fascinated me. So I've done it several hundred times over the last 3 decades, which is insane. On the largest level, I did it with a piece called For Godot, which I turned a novel into music. And that took me about 4.5 years, and the piece lasts for 26 hours. And so I've done it again with this piece. And the text I used was Waiting for Godot, a play by Samuel Beckett, originally written in French, premiered in French and then translated into English. I can show you as an example. If we take Samuel Beckett's name, using this basic key where an A is an A C is a C, a D is a D. For a bit more extra fruitiness, I'm using the German key notation system where an S equals an E flat, but often I use it as a D sharp because in English you get a lot of the letter E, so if you don't want to keep going E flat, E natural. And then a B is actually a B flat and a H is a B. Basically what this piece does for 27 hours is take any letters that can be played in a word and then transcribe them onto organ. I'll go through some examples here. It will be no surprise to hear me say it's a little bit more complicated than that, but this is the nice, easy version. So here we have an S and an A, which is a D sharp and an A and an E. So we get a chord of a D sharp, an A and an E. And this could be, some of these notes could be taken with pedals. Samuel has 6 letters and Beckett has 7 letters. So all of the words, the number of letters in them defines how long it will be. So if it's a 1, a 2, a 3 or a 4 letter word, that will last from between 1/4 of a second and 4 seconds. If it's a 7, 8 or 9 letters, that will last between 7 and 9 seconds and the performer chooses. So this is why the piece can last anything from 17 to 27 hours because there is this freedom. And if we look at another example, so Waiting for Godot, we have the A and the G. Waiting is 7 letters, so that comes under the category of 7 to 9. 4, there's just an F there. Godot, G and a D, so that creates a nice perfect fifth, and that's between 5 and 6 seconds. Now, here's Vladimir and Estragon. Now, these are important because one of the reasons I wanted to do a play is because in a play you have the names of the characters repeated over and over, which creates this sort of, the music feels like it's turning in on itself, never really getting anywhere. You have an idea and it's pretty quickly disturbed. And also, there's a weird thing with the most frequent words like the and. When you're reading a piece of text, you don't really recognize them. But here, they're brought to life. So words that the word like and or the gets heard a lot. And so it creates this special importance that you don't really get in a text. So Vladimir is an A and a D. Estragon, I really like it because you have these 2 sevenths, the E and the D sharp, and the A and the G. And of course, you hear these a lot. Compositionally, I like composing like this because I can't remember who it was, but they compared this composition as a sort of a form of play. If you're walking through a town and you're going through the main road, this is you just composing normally, but then you see a side street and something looks interesting down there. So you go down there. This is what I'm like when I'm composing. And if you like it down there, you stay down there, you explore, you go back to the main road. But for me, it's even weirder things happening. It's almost like the streets themselves start to play with each other, and everything bends. And I rarely remember how I wrote something because it's so frantic, and I have so many ideas, and all these parameters and rules that start to intertwine and play with themselves. And sometimes they write themselves, kind of like Stephen King's characters in his novels. He just lets them talk and sees what they want to say. I really, really like elements of basic profundity. You could take any sentence from Waiting for Godot and write an entire thesis about it. And it's very, very ordinary things that are just dripping with profundity. It's just beautiful. And either it's like one very long question or one very long answer, and they don't have to connect to each other. Oh, it was famously reviewed as a play in which nothing happens twice. Yeah, I mean, I've always been interested in, as an experimental composer of experimental and conceptual music, writing aleatorically. This is just a perfect way to get what I need. And of course, this is just a way of gathering notes, and then the skill where the composition really comes, the role of the composer really comes in, is actually shaping it and putting it all together. Because if you just get all the notes, that means nothing. I mean, a computer program could pull all of this out and make a piece in a few seconds. I've written pieces that take years that could be written in seconds on a computer, but it wouldn't interest me. But as I said before, looking at what letters are in a word, I kind of think of it as, I find it quite hard to read sometimes because I get so excited by all the patterns. If there's 11 words in a row that have an E in, or you have 5 in a row that have all the vowels in, or if you get a 4-letter word and a 5-letter word and a 6-letter word, there's all these rhythms and structures. When you're reading, it's like the surface of the ocean. But what I see is like the entire ocean underneath, and it's so overwhelmingly rich. All the patterns, all the rhythms that you can get. You can just create an infinity of rhythmic variation and harmonic variation just from looking what's inside a word. It's fascinating. It's probably worth saying as well that this organ piece is, as far as we understand, the longest organ piece ever written. So this is the score. So it's fully notated. I think about 123 pages. And so that took 7 weeks to draft, and then a bit longer to actually bring it all together. I mean, in Waiting for Godot, if you were to visit Vladimir and Estragon at any time, they'd be having the same conversation. And it's more of a compulsion than communication. So with this piece, you can pop in, and 1 minute is no different, better or worse, than any other minute. So you don't need to hear a lot of it to get it. You can hear a few seconds, or you can hear a few hours.